Rico has something in it's a crown. It's a crown. Those wires? Interface. Gotta be careful that I don't click on the same thing again. I'm slowing down a little bit because I don't want to mess up. Follow the thread. We're gonna go back. Your eyes track the thread across the whirling dark, back to your body. This choice, you realize, will not be presented again. Follow it. You don't look back at the gardener. You don't dare risk it. Instead, you follow the thread, delicately, carefully, like a diver following their lifeline back to the surface. The river whirls around you, but it doesn't pull. It isn't jealous. Neither does it understand. It is, after all, just a river. It isn't a person, a flesh and blood person, with wants, with desires, with the capacity for love and hate. It doesn't understand you, and you don't understand it. So you don't focus on it, you don't think about it. On what feels like such a long journey back to the dark, you set your mind on eyes instead, on hands, things you can focus on, hold on to. And then, after an age of crossing, you are there, settling back into the chair, into a body in the chair, and the overwhelming sensations that come with being a living thing with a rich and detailed sensorium. For a moment you feel like you've made a terrible mistake. Who would choose this weight, this anxiety, this deep well at the center of existence? But then you feel it, Rico's hand, gripped hard around yours, trembling a little, sweating a little. Rico's hand with its brittle bones and crumpled skin. Rico's hand. And in that moment, you understand why you made this choice. And then you squeeze Rico's hand and you wake up. An ending, but not really. It's interesting that the credits still roll when you choose not to take an ending. That's when you're especially hopping right back into the game. Like, it's not like it kicks you out to the title screen. Sleeper? Rico's voice comes wavering through the dark. Are you still with me? You sit up, the lab a bright green glare that fades as you gather yourself. I'm here. Rico smiles. Good. She squeezes your hand. I thought you'd left me for a moment. What? She pauses. Who? She smiles. Tell me about it. Tell me everything. Tell her the truth. You tell Rico everything. You tell her about the gardener, that strange farm administrator AI that had grown to be so much more, about the chorus, that impossible configuration of networked plants, and finally about the choice the gardener offered you. She listens attentively, but her responses are hard to read, and you wonder if she might have a different decision had she been in your if she might have made a different decision had she been in your place. Thank you, Sleeper, for telling me. I know it isn't easy to say such things. People so often do not wish to hear strange truths. She looks away. And thank you for returning to me. Though I know you had your reasons. She squeezes your hand reassuringly. Something passes between you then, a kind of shared sadness for the impossible choice, the choice to escape your body or to stay and suffer it. Her smile is warm and generous, and whatever the wisdom of your choice, you are glad to feel welcome in this moment, in this place. Then, suddenly, she stands and walks a little away, as if trying to escape an unpleasant thought. You worry that she knows all too well what it takes to make a choice like you did. Rico sighs. So, Sleeper, do you plan to stay in the commune with us? I plan to. I'm glad to hear it. Rico crosses back over to you and takes one of your hands in both of hers. Ifa needs new blood if it wants to survive, and... She squeezes. You are a good friend. The feeling is mutual. Well, don't let me keep you. Rico waves you away and limps back to her terminal. As she does, you notice the crown in her hand, and she places it on the bench with great care. You can't help but feel a little curious about what she intends to do with it. Then you are out, breathing the air of the greenway, fresh as a spring morning. The dappled light makes a patchwork of the green landscape, and you walk into it, sensing the moments of the gardener's chorus all around. And you are glad to be here, in this strange and beautiful place, a little longer. I wonder if they're hinting that she might be dealing with, or have been dealing with thoughts of suicide or other related elements. Or if it's just talking about her being infirm and aged. And how the days might be a struggle themselves. Interface comes up frequently enough, I guess. I did not expect to get so close to filling the entire tree in. Conditions fine. That means it's time to sleep. Or energy, I mean, is fine. It would have been pretty rough to disappear into the mycelium thing. I was in the middle of stuff. Trying to help people here. Okay, so that's both of my main story objectives gone, or like pre-DLC gone. Now we're just free to completely focus on this. Okay, so we need food and scrap. I thought this was further along. No, yeah, we had 5 left to go. Yeah. I could invest in making that go faster, but we have other tasks I can work on too, which I might as well do. I think I should spend my higher risk. There we go. One scrap. Ooh. Whoops. You lose energy for a neutral outcome. It's just an awkward enough amount of energy that you never want to buy 2 things of food in one go. I might lose energy, then come back and spend more again. We're at 3 out of 8. Come on. Boom, neutral. Okay. We're slowly poking at that. I'm working at all 3 goals in tandem. I hope I can finish it before Bliss calls me about the next thing, because it'll just be kind of rough at this point to have another thing come up. I think I'm gonna risk a somewhat lower one on this one. It'll go fine. Would like to make more progress on the scrap. So a 6 would be nice. Did I remember to re-roll last time? I'm not sure. We're at 5 now. 2 is a bit risky for that. Getting there. Come on, 4. I don't think I want to go down 3 dice. I can just buy the scrap. This guy's here right now. I can buy exactly 3, actually. Okay. I bought scrap and I got slightly screwed because I got a ship mined piece instead for one of them. Can I sell a piece of a ship mined instead of the whole thing? Sell ship mined, buy ship mined core. Probably not. I need to get working on my cure soon. My next stabilizer. This has been a very productive couple of weeks, and it's burning through my stabilizer because I'm trying to stay at not. I don't want to go down to 3 dice. But then I'll have to recover it. A rapid burst of movement catches your attention. A drone, its fins adjusting as it hovers in place, floats in the corridor. Hello? The drone shifts a little bit but does not respond. The drone buzzes closer, and a voice gurgles out of its speaker, distorted and strange. Sleeper, come to the cordon. We need to speak. Who is this? The drone clicks and whirs and the recording starts playing again. Sleeper, come to the cordon. We need to speak. Inspect the drone. You move closer and the drone bobs away to a safe distance. But as it does, you see the ha of Havenage emblazoned on the side. Could this be Feng's drone? Satisfied it has delivered the message, the drone rotates and accelerates away as rapidly as it arrived. You stare at it as it disappears from sight, hoping for some insight that escapes you. To the cordon, then. Dude, I'm busy. As you enter the passage that leads through the cordon, a flash of movement catches your eye. The drone. It stops to make sure you've seen it, and then flits into a side passage leading to a set of narrow stairs. You climb up through a dark shaft, the drone stopping at each landing to check you are following. Despite its lack of expression, there's something overbearing about the way the drone waits, impatiently realigning its fins in sequence. After a long climb, you come out onto an observation platform. The cordon and the vast ramshackle refugee ships beyond fill your vision. The scale seems impossible, and immediately you feel small and naive for even thinking you could affect the situation. Something shifts nearby. The drone again? A woman has stood at the window, at the edge of your vision. You aren't surprised you didn't notice her. She, too, seems impossibly small in the shadow of the flotilla. The drone buzzes by her shoulder, and she turns. Helene. Sleeper. Sorry for all the cloak and dagger nonsense. She nods to the drone. But I have never regretted being cautious. She smiles a tight smile and holds out a hand. I'm Helene. Shake her hand. The tight smile holds, but the drone keeps its single eye fixed on you. The effect is a little unnerving. Look. She glances around the empty observation deck as if checking for potential eavesdroppers. Let's be straight with each other. I know about your plans, and... She cuts in before you can respond. I understand your motives. You look at her in the overalls, the yellow markers, the HA sigil. You've been on the eye long enough to recognize a Havenage member when you see them. You're a Havenage. Yes, I mean, I expect that is obvious. The tight smile again. I hope you won't hold that against me. She glances around nervously again, and moves a little closer. This entire situation, I am not here to defend it. She glances back at the flotilla. No one is happy about this. Especially not the refugees. She sighs. I am not your enemy here, no matter what you think. She pauses. Sleeper, tell me something. What does Havenage mean to you? A work in progress. She smiles. Fair, I think. Havenage is used to being criticized. In some ways, we invite it. Our members are free to bring up grievances at any meeting, to propose new structures and approaches. She shifts her weight impatiently. As a counselor, it is my duty to listen to them. That is why I was elected by the members. We are an imperfect system, yes, and each counselor, each member, each representative can be flawed and worse. She looks down. But we keep this place running. That is what we do. And the flotilla? She turns and looks out at the clump of fractured ships. The flotilla is a problem. Can the Eye take in thousands of refugees safely? I don't know. This place is a ruin, Sleeper. What do you think the council discusses? The price of G-roll? We make plans to keep this place spinning, to keep life support working, to ensure... Helene's slate chirps, and a grim look passes across her face as she sees the notification. She looks tired, the screen light casting her rigid expression in a pale glow. Sleeper, I didn't bring you here to explain how Havenage works. I came to talk about your plan to cross the cordon, breach the quarantine, and supply the flotilla. She looks directly at you. Stay silent. I know you think you are helping the flotilla, but you cannot do this. Right now, halfway along the ring, one of a countless series of debates are being held. These debates are to evaluate the potential harm that could be caused if the refugees of the flotilla are left to enter the station. These debates are at a standstill. Helena walks to the window. Too many in the Havenage Council think of the flotilla as a threat. After recent events, a hardline group has emerged. Protective. Selfish. They seek only to the benefit of the members. They seek only to benefit the members. In their mind, the flotilla is a danger to life on the Eye. If you are caught crossing the cordon and breaching the quarantine, it will only strengthen the hardline counselor's case. Criminals who stole a ship from XPR undermining the security of the station? She shakes her head. It's exactly what they want. The refugees need supplies. They do, and that's exactly what I want to give them. But unless the quarantine is lifted through a fair process, they will never get them. She sighs deeply. And those XPR spacers that you're running with? Sleeper, do you know anything about them? More than I know about you. She looks at you pleadingly. Let's change that, Sleeper. Why do you think the refugee flotilla came here now? Something is happening in the system. Something is pushing people out of the colonies and outposts that have survived since Solheim collapsed. We need to be ready for whatever is coming, ready to protect the Eye. I know the Eye means something to you. I know there's a reason you are still here. Help me protect it. Helena fixes you with a strong look. Persuade those spacers that this is the wrong move, that they will get caught, and the flotilla will be locked down. That havenage will be delivered into those with the worst instincts. Forget this suicidal supply run, with people you barely know. Help me fight for the Eye. Why don't you stop them? If I expose the plan, it's the same as if it goes ahead and they are caught. Every way I look at it, the Eye looks compromised, the quarantine justified, the hardliners get their scapegoat. Don't offer up the excuse the hardliners need to lock the flotilla out altogether, to persuade the members they are the safest pair of hands. She looks at you imploringly. Please. You look back at her and the flotilla behind, a sense of desperation in her plea. A notification breaks the silence. Shit. Sleeper. She rapidly scrolls through the pages of data. Sleeper, I need to go. She looks torn. Think about this, please. Talk to the spacers. Help them see reason. And she quickly leaves the observation deck before you have time to respond. You stay for a moment, watching the lights of the tugs and the flotilla, and wonder what it feels like to be on one of those ships, so close to your destination, and yet so far from it. And then you think of the Havenage Council chamber, across the Eye, where the right of these people to find safety is being debated. You shiver, and then you too are gone, back into the stairwell and the cold dark below. This is a dilemma. As a queer person, I am reminded of the constant promise of a better future if I just wait. And how empty that promise tends to be. And so that informs a lot. Where I'm just like, oh yeah, just... sure. Don't worry, the system will come out on the right end of things. You just have to behave politely. No protests and whatnot. Got the food. You were leaning against the metal crates you just loaded up with algae, packed and dried into bright green pucks. Ash hops onto one beside you, flexing her aching back. I hope the refugees like algae. Ash squints at you, as if you just interrupted her train of thought. It's a look you have become familiar with. It doesn't matter either way. This is what we've got. She sighs, rubbing the back of her neck. In these past cycles, working the algae stack with Ash, you've had little insight into her mind. She rarely seems happy to start a conversation, but is always eager to end one. Despite this, you feel like something has grown between you, something like silent trust, the kind that tends to seed itself in the fertile soil of hard but necessary work. There's something I've been meaning to ask. Ash raises her head cautiously. Go on. Why escape XPR? Ash pauses, her protective instinct fighting with the trust you've built. You can see her begin to shrug the question off. Then she stops, rethinks, sighs. What you need to understand, Sleeper, is that Erlin's Eye wasn't the only place where Solheim collapse happened. Sure, Hawthorne, where we grew up, was an XPR installation, but that didn't screen it from the Solheim going under. Actually, Solheim was the only reason XPR were even here. She pauses, hesitant to get into the whole story, but wanting to offer something. She flinches, correcting herself. I can't stop yawning today for some reason. They are a service corps. You understand? They set up outposts and surrogate systems like this to offer refueling, logistics and maintenance services to bigger companies with extraction contracts. She gestures to the eye around her. Like Solheim. When Solheim went bust, XPR lost their client. And Hawthorne, well, we lost everything. We became an outpost tasked with just holding on. Keep the refueling platforms running like they said. Keep the refueling platforms running, they said. Keep the outpost stable. Hold on to our claim. She rubs at her head, as if recalling all this was somehow physically painful. Do you know what it is like to spend your entire life in a place with no future? A place that exists only to hold a legal claim to a piece of territory. To shore up breach of contract negotiations between two corporations? It's like living in a... She searches for the word, her eyes jumping back and forth. In a grave. She clenches her hands. So if you're looking for the answer as to why... For the answer to why questions, that's your answer. We, Peak and I, know what it's like to be forgotten, to be locked out. She stares hard at the side of the stack, the algae whirling against the glass in beautiful patterns. And she doesn't look away. The silence extends, and you realize that the conversation is over. Ash seems angry. Not at you, but with herself, for even voicing such ideas. After a while, you stand and start to load the crates onto the powered cargo trolley that Ash will run back into the briar. As you do, you try to catch her eye, but she avoids it, soothing herself instead with the comforting simplicity of physical work. We're definitely getting there. So we have the food and water, so we just need the scrap. I'm just about there. Ah! -2 energy. Shit. Neutral outcomes there do not play nice. Okay, so they have the scrap. Flotilla needs food, water, and components. You might not be able to get all of them, but Ash will take what she can get. Wait, what else do I do here at this objective? Or did I just do that part? You look over the pile of scrap components lying in the briar. You look around. The bay is empty. Ash and Peak either elsewhere on the station or on the bridge a couple of levels up. You begin sorting through the pile, separating out useful components and boxing them by use. You don't recognize everything you find, but before long you get into the rhythm of sorting. As you do, your mind starts to drift, your attention being drawn into the dark corners of the bay. The briar is in surprisingly good condition, considering the Hawthorne and XPR must have been operating it for decades by now. The marks of care are everywhere, from the delicate patch jobs, polished to meld into the original finish, or the carefully bound wiring running through the custom trunking. Ash loves this ship, that much is clear. Something catches your eye in one of the dark corners, a matte black stack of crates you hadn't spotted before. They are sleek and compact, tucked away behind some of the bigger, more worn containers. Investigate. You put the components away and go over to the sleek crates. You run your hands across their textured surface. but there is little hint of what lies inside in the opaque metallic casing. Then you see it, a yellow symbol, embossed onto the far side of the crate, a universal sigil used by spacers, corporations, and manufacturers alike. It's one you have seen throughout your time as a sleeper, its meaning all too familiar. Explosive contents. You hear a hiss, and Esh comes up through the bay's lock. She barely registers your presence, nodding at you as she passes. Sleeper. She busies herself with some task at the back of the bay. Ask about the crates. Esh doesn't turn around from whatever she's busy with. Just more supplies, Sleeper, like everything else here. You can't think of anything else to ask, but sense that the atmosphere is now somehow shifted. You quickly finish up the sorting and slip out, waving goodbye to her back as you do. What's going on with those? So now it's just down to Peak's plan. Oh man, how long is Peak's plan? Uh-oh. Better get busy. I need to eat. These all lose energy. Hopefully Peak's plan is easier to do than all the supplies, because I've almost out of time. Reading into my savings, y'all. Would have been very awkward to disappear into the network and whatnot with all this stuff unfinished. Like, I'm in the middle of helping refugees and then like, nope, actually I'm gonna be an AI now, bye. I just never finished that. That was your genuine ending. This one gives me the best outcome, and I have the dice for it now. Come on, positive? Not positive. There's 3 more tasks now. Oh, fuck. Alright, let's go sleep and then I'll read all of them. I have like 2 days to do this. I don't know if that's possible. I might be in trouble. Those are pretty good rolls. Sleeper. Peak is waiting for you when you leave, but they look different, pale, drawn out. You need to come up to the Briar now. They don't meet your eye. What's happened? Not here. Peak hisses. Come to the ship. We'll be waiting. Peak walks away. Don't take long. And with that, they disappear around the corner, leaving you anxious and confused. I'm anxious because I don't know if it's possible to finish this objective or not. There's just so much for me to do. Maybe I should have prioritized Peak's mission more, because maybe it's an all or nothing, whereas the supplies are whatever you can get. So maybe I fucked up by getting all the supplies. As you walk into the Climbing Briar's cavernous bay, now filled with crates and containers, Ash is waiting for you. In front of her, sliced open, with its insides scattered across the top of a heavy-duty crate, is an object you recognize. Helene's drone. You freeze. Come in, quick. Peak nudges you into the bay, looking behind you before sealing the entryway. We have to start being careful. You move closer to the container, your eyes on the drone splayed out in pieces. Some parts of it hooked up to a slate that Peak picks up and begins tapping away at. Ash looks up from the dissection. We caught it buzzing around nearby, heading for the ship. She leans over and taps the HA sigil on one of the removed pieces of the plating. It's a Havenage spy. We think we got it before it sent data back, but we can't be sure. Peak looks at you, nervously. Ash cuts in. Have you noticed anyone watching you? Any drones like this? Anyone following you up to the Briar? I've seen this drone. Ash frowns. Following you? I met its owner. Ash pauses for a while, Peak looking between the two of you. Explain, Sleeper, Ash says quietly. Tell them about Helena. You explain that you met with Helena at the cordon, and you tell Ash and Peak about what she told you, that the Havenage Council are debating lifting the quarantine, but they are blocked by the hardliners. You speak faster and faster, but before you can finish, Ash walks away in anger, then comes back again, her eyes burning. What is this, Sleeper? Have you understood nothing from what we've told you? She paces in front of you. Havenage are not your friends. They are administrators, which means they are interested only in their own power, their own survival, their own causes. They divide people as easily as sorting livestock. The greater good of the work demands it, the wider project of the station, the colony, the nation. Her eyes are wide as she speaks, her anger barely contained. I didn't have a choice. Peak cuts in. Listen to them, please, Ash. They are with us. Peak glances between you two. What was the Sleeper supposed to do? They were ambushed by this Helena. I only listened. Let me tell you something, Sleeper, Ash says, her rage hardening into pain. When people become administrators, they give up something, some part of being human. Being an equal among others goes away. They start talking about the greater good, the systems, the ways in which their hands are tied, or other processes compromised. My mother was an administrator of Hawthorne, and I have seen what it did to her. That noble, higher calling, it is toxic. People should never have the chance to decide the fate of others, and those that do so at a cost to their humanity. Peak tries to cut in, but Ash holds up a hand. Don't start, Peak. Don't ask me to be reasonable or calm down. Thousands of people are desperate out there. Being reasonable will only prolong their suffering. You're right. Ash doesn't move for a moment. Then she lifts a hand to rub her temples. She goes to say something, then stops. She walks back to the bay and starts checking the straps on the crates. I will make the run. She yanks on a strap. No more distractions. Sleeper. Peak looks torn. You have to understand. This is personal for Ash. I know. Peak looks away, then at Ash. I don't know, Sleeper. I just don't know what to do. You glance around the bay of Briar, the walls seeming closer every second. This whole thing is closing in on you, and the question is, where do you want to be when it all collapses? You look at Peak. And what do you think, Sleeper? Peak rubs their forehead. Should we do this thing or not? I don't know. Peak nods. Me neither. They look at Ash. But you see her? She knows. And she saved my life. So I'm going to say we do it. They squeeze your shoulder. Onward. They slip away to help Ash, leaving you alone to replay the conversation in your head, a certain kind of grim determination settling in the room. Last chance to prepare. I don't know if it's possible. I might have 3 days? If I could do one task every day? I think the day that it's full, you can still do stuff if I go by the time with getting the pass? Certain things slip my mind just long enough to be a problem in this, because I don't fully know what the best order to do things in, I guess. Whoops. Hope for the best.